Hey patrons, if you're watching on the later feed, just gotta post this for the people watching live. Be good to go. Okay. So I had to set my old setup back up a little bit. Since I got a new camera, right here, and so it's like changed my whole setup for how I do everything. So traditionally, I've had a big stack of books right here under my laptop. Put my laptop on the stack of books, and then put Mr. Webcam right here on top of it, and then so it would be right at about eye level where the camera was at. But the books are gone, all that stuff's gone. So now that I'm doing a live stream, and also not shooting with my normal stuff, now this camera's much lower, so it's like shooting up at our ceiling, so you can actually see the paint line and what all that looks like way up there, and all my setup from a different angle, and using different light settings at the moment. So this is kind of fun to get a different look on what this camera can produce. Yeah, so kind of see what happens, see if anyone's joining in. No one has joined in yet, so I'll just keep telling stories. I'll tell you the story behind new camera, just for you wonderful patrons. Wonder where all the backstory and all that one is. So I about a year now I've been thinking about getting a new camera and upgrading, because that's when my channel really started to take off, have success. And I started having videos that a lot of people were watching. It was pretty clear that I was moving towards full time. So I was wondering, like, all right, should I upgrade to a new camera? And at the time, I'm going, okay, I'm growing. I get very few complaints about my camera. I know I'm shooting on a webcam. I know the difficulties of the camera that I'm using. I know its weaknesses, but I get so few comments of people wanting me to go 1080, complaining about the image quality or anything like that. And so I was like, what? If I'm trying to save up to go full time, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to invest money into a new camera if I'm not having issues with it. So jump forward about 10 months from when I was heavily having those thoughts. April was fantastic for me. So I went full time 3 months ago. March was, kicking things off, preparing for everything. Then April was fantastic. Best month in my channel's history on kind of all the levels. Some really great content. And then April made kind of like two best months. Whether you're talking about just basic YouTube metrics of subs, views, all of it was great. Fun content, end game. I got to speak at a Comic-Con. So this great little window of time, and got some sponsorships in there. So I had a little bit of money above and beyond what I needed to kind of save for slower months, as well as pay myself and feed my kids for now. And I went, all right, if I'm starting to get a few more comments like, why am I not 1080? I'm full time, but I'm shooting on a webcam. Maybe I should rethink all of this, or I should start thinking a little bit longer term. And I was like, I know I have the money right now, and I've got other buffer for when things get a little bit crazier, and I got the tax money saved up and everything. And so I went, we've still got half the summer. I've got, more Marvel videos, Spider-Man videos, Pixar, Chucky, Illumination. If my choices are my kind of hit content video, a lot of these rankings that I do, they hold me for a year. People find them months later. They're very evergreen. And I went, if I had the option, do I want those shot with a nice camera that's nice, crisp, and sharp, and 1080 as my evergreen content, or do I want it to be on the webcam again? I'd rather make the upgrade now and have the last 2.5 months of summer have that better quality, have them be a part of the upgrade, as opposed to, maybe wait 2 more months, have a little bit more money saved up, and make the upgrade at a slow season. So, the month where nothing comes out, now I've got a great camera for this content that's not terribly exciting. Now, I'd much rather have the good camera and make the upgrade while I can still make some great videos with it. Especially thinking July, when you have Spider-Man Far From Home. I'm going to do a bunch of kind of my once a year MCU rankings, plus a big update of my Spider-Man rankings that'll be my Spider-Man rankings for the next 2 years. I'd rather than be on the new camera. All right, we got a bunch of stuff coming in. And Jackson, just saw your Best Picture front runner, Secret Life of Pets 2. Hey, wait a minute. I didn't say Best Picture. I did dig it, though. If you guys didn't watch my review for Secret Life of Pets 2 yet, I didn't really like the first one. I just thought it was mean-spirited. It was like a little bit more mean-spirited version of Toy Story, except with pets. I didn't like it too much. The second one, it's unassuming fun. just cute little antics with animals, and so it did what it needed to do for me. So I dug it. Best Picture, however, I'm not heading in that direction. Osen says, "Hi, Sean. Hello. Hey, man. Great to talk with you. Great to see you here." Road to Dawn. "Hi, Sean. This is my first stream, and thank you all for the great content you put out. Thank you so much for watching and joining the stream. The cool thing about these is that I get to read everything, and I can respond back. So sometimes when we got a lot of questions, it can be a little bit disjointed where I'm going back and forth between conversations. But if you ask questions, I'll be able to get to them. So which is fun. That like I actually can remember who you guys are, get to know you. These are really cool. These are one of the cooler things I get to do with this whole YouTube talking movies things. Rich Reviews. All right, you got a whole bunch of these. Let me fly through Rich Reviews questions, and if everyone else wants to throw in some questions in here too, we can get going with it. Hey, Rich Reviews. Hi. They're talking to you is the highlight of my week. Awesome. I guess I hadn't even read your comment yet, but yeah, this is it's a ton of fun to get to do these. On the main channel, obviously I get to put my ideas out there. And then in the comments, I can respond to people, but I can only normally respond to like one comment because there's just so many. I can't go back to everything. But here, Rich, you're here almost every single week. I get to actually talk with you. I get to go back and forth. There's like actual relationships. I know things that you do and don't like. Like there's a whole bunch of things. There's a real conversation versus it's a little bit more one directional over on the main channel. So these are just it's a neat little way to ground a lot of what I do. Richards, what did you do to celebrate 75th anniversary of D-Day? I didn't really do anything. No particular reason. That's just, that's not something I would normally celebrate. I had some thoughts of, hey, should I watch this? Should I watch this? But the reality is that July and June are just such busy months for me. I've got this huge list of movies I have to watch in preparation for different rankings and stuff. And so for me, it just kind of D-Day came and went. Some of the podcasts I listened to covered some things, and I watched a couple videos, but I didn't really do anything to celebrate it. Rich Reviews, contemplating joining Twitter. Twitter's good if you're looking to engage with people and join conversations. It just kind of it's kind of fun because you just butt your way into conversations, or you can have someone else's conversation, you throw it onto your stream, and suddenly you take it over. So there's a bunch of fun, unique things about Twitter. It's a pretty long learning curve. I've been on Twitter since about 2009, maybe 2008, and didn't really get good at it until about 2 years ago. So I've been doing it for about 8 years poorly, not really understanding how it worked or too nervous to really engage. And then with this channel, I started trying to do stuff and join the conversation on Twitter, and that's where I started to get have some experience with it. Rich Reviews, I'm a defender of X-Men The Last Stand. Sadly, Dark Phoenix baffled me. I've shot my footage for my review, but don't have energy to edit it yet. Yeah, it's I'm hearing more and more people kind of having that take that, like, in light of Dark Phoenix, they're like, I actually really like Last Stand, and I'm a defender of it. Having that conversation yesterday with some people on Facebook. I got some problems with Last Stand. I think it makes some goofy mistakes that I just don't. It's a movie that pretty clearly had a last minute director swap, and so that doesn't have like a distinct voice to it. I don't feel it kind of feels like all the plot points that are supposed to be there are there, but it's missing a little bit of the heart. Dark Phoenix is its own weird set of odd. I like a bunch of people that have actually really liked it, a bunch of people that hate it, think it's the worst thing ever, and a bunch of people in the middle. There's no distinctive take on it, which kind of makes sense to me. Even if after I watched it, my own weird feelings on it was like, I don't know how to this is a weird version of a bad movie. But I could see why people would think it was a good movie, and I could see how people could enjoy it. It's a very unique way of feeling off and all those things. Rich Reviews finished watching the meta documentary Framing John DeLorean. I actually do not know what that one is. For reviews, Rich Reviews, most summer films have an uphill climb for me. Yeah, if you're not summer movies in general are all, they're for a specific type of people, and they're trying to do a specific thing. They're trying to appeal to a very broad audience, and so there's certain things about them that can be, it's a specific thing, and that specific thing changes throughout the decades. And so, I've always kind of liked big blockbuster fun stuff. I like mass entertainment. That's why my channel kind of works, because I have broad tastes, or I have the taste of the broad mass. Maybe that's the better way to phrase it. I can enjoy some of the deeper stuff and the artsier things. But at the end of the day, I can get excited about the same thing that general audiences get excited about. Jackson, my fiance is a huge animal lover, just as I am. She said Secret Life of Pets 2 was her favorite movie theater experience ever. That's bold. That's an interesting one to have as your favorite ever. But, as an animal person myself, I mean, that first 10 minutes is almost rough for me. So I'll get a little bit personal. So the boy in the movie's name is Liam. My son's name is Liam. And when he was born, we actually technically had 3 dogs. We gave one to my mom because it was getting a little bit older and wasn't as sensitive with kids. So essentially, as his memories, we had 2 dogs, and one of them was his pet dog right from the beginning. So it's just like the beginning of the movie, all in like he pretended to be the dog, and then we had to put that dog down last July when he was 6. And so a year later, he still carries around a stuffed animal doll that we gave him that looks like that dog, and he calls her Sadie. And I mean, so I was watching Secret Life of Pets with him, and I suspect he was getting a little bit emotional about some of that stuff, and I know that I was. So for a dumb pet movie that's not big on plot, just shenanigans, it really touches on animal lover type stuff pretty well. Richard's thoughts on the sequel to Zombieland coming out 10 years later. Very nervous about a Zombieland coming out now. Couple reasons for that. The specific reason I'm nervous about this one, they did a Zombieland TV show pilot deal thing for Amazon Prime 5 years ago, 6 years ago, written by the people that did the original one. It's not like they brought new people in. It was the creative juices that gave us the film, and everything I heard about it wasn't good. I haven't watched it, but I did not hear good things about it. So that makes me nervous because that maybe they were just kind of, they just hit this proper stride this one time and it didn't work. Second reason, any long delayed comedy sequels, I'm always skeptical about them. Have been for a number of years now. As soon as I started being old enough for things that I loved when I was growing up to come back 10 years later, 15 years later, 20 years later, and I watched these movies and they were just, most of it was just not good, disappointing. That kind of still sticks with me. This one might be okay because it's niche enough. It's got the horror element. It's got the action element. And Jesse Eisenberg was young enough. Woody Harrelson was old enough that it doesn't feel like they've shifted life stages too much. So you think like Jim Carrey doing his shtick for Dumb and Dumber when he was 30 versus doing that shtick when he's 50. That a young man versus a guy pushing 50 in 50. It feels weird when he's still doing the same thing. He's not that guy anymore. It doesn't feel like it. Maybe Jesse Eisenberg hasn't quite hit that yet. But there's just a lot of things like that happen that it's hard to... And comedy's so timely. Like what was funny in the 90s, if you didn't grow up watching those 90s comedies and you watch it now, they can feel off. They can feel... A lot of it is offensive because we've shifted culturally so much about our sensitivity and races towards jokes that were just casually thrown out there, slurs that were thrown out casually in the 90s in big hit movies that everybody watched are now offensive homophobic slurs. And so comedy shifts so quickly, so fast that I get really nervous about any of these kind of comeback sequel deals. Oh, so many questions. Mr. Downer, what do you think of the Office episode Scott's? Everyone hates it. I don't mind it. Well, I don't mind it is probably the wrong response to it. And I think the reason people hate it is the right response. Because the people hate it because... And then obviously you can feel however you want. I said that a little bit too harsh. What I mean by that is that The Office does cringe humor. They make episodes that are meant to make you feel uncomfortable watching it. And it just builds this tension in you. I think the best episode that did that was the dinner party, where you're watching, you're so uncomfortable at everything that Michael and Jan are doing at this dinner party. And it makes you're uncomfortable watching this fabricated scenario. And Scott's Tots is the ultimate pushing that to the edge storyline that they ever did. That just cringe-inducing. You watch the whole episode dreading the end of it because you know it's going to be so painful. And so the reason people hate it is because it accomplished exactly what it was going for. That's the reason we're talking about it now. That's the reason it pops. I'm one of those people that I never want to rewatch Scott's Tots. you could say it's because I hate it, or you could say it's because it accomplished its goal too well. For me, there's like this line, and I think the dinner party got right up to the line of like, I feel so uncomfortable, I love this, and then Scott's Tots goes over the line to, I'm so uncomfortable, I don't want to watch this again. As you just watch this painful scenario. Jackson, do you have any insanely weird movie theater experiences, like other people being strangely or overtly obnoxious? I mean, I've told this story many times before. When I went to go see Insidious 4, or whatever the last one was, Skeleton Key, Last Key, Lost Key, whatever the one that was that came out January 2018, I sat down for the movie to start, and the guys in the row in front of me, and it's a packed theater, which is weird. Like, I go to the same theater, have been going through Thursday nights for almost the whole length of my channel, almost there. I'm there 2 or 3 Thursdays. Normally it's empty, very empty. And it's a joke I do on Twitter actually about, look, looks like it's going to be a big hit. I do it all the time, but almost every movie's empty. So it's like I'm picking on the movies, but it's really this theater that doesn't seem to be doing well. For whatever reason, this was packed for, Insidious 4 or whatever. And the row in front of me is these high school guys, and before the movie starts, they're watching porn and like passing it around, like hardcore, not just Playboy stuff, but like XXX. Woo! You guys are going for it right in front of me. And then the movie starts. Like, okay, I don't want to be the guy to get in a weird. I just want to watch this movie and go out my business. And for the first half of the movie, they're not good audience. They're giggling and stuff like that, but they're not too bad. As you move into like 60% of the way through the movie, there's a little bit of change in the plot, and a girl gets kidnapped. And she's like laying on a table. Or not kidnapped. There's a girl that's taken, and she's laying on a table, and she's like most movies like this, wearing a skin-tight shirt. So the way the angle's shot, it shows her boobs. Like she's not naked, but it shows that she's got some curves to her body. It's not super exploitive, but it just the way that it's shot, you notice this about her. And as soon as this happens in the movie, you wouldn't even, this isn't a thing you'd even notice in the movie if not for what was about to happen. So as soon as this happens in the movie, I start hearing like something in front of me and some mumbling, something mumbling in front of me. What is going on? And then they show the girl again, and you kind of notice the curves again, and you hear some mumbling once again in front of me. And then 2 minutes later, they show the girl again, mumbling in front of me. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, are these guys talking? Is their phone going off? And what it was, and then as it went along, it got louder and louder and louder. And 10 times, 15 times this happened. What was happening is every time we'd show this girl's body, this guy would play some meme or something from his phone that was something about him. The clip itself was a crass way for saying he liked this lady and was interested in her in the carnal sense. Every single, and he would play it louder and louder and louder. So I was about to like get out and like storm out and get the manager. I was about to like pick a fight with these guys, but I just wanted to watch the movie and go home. So I needed to get my review done that night, so I didn't. But like literally, these guys watched porn before the movie and then are like playing a crass, vulgar meme in the middle of the film. It was just the worst. It's not like a great movie, I regret that I wasn't more confrontational, and I probably would be now I'm a little bit more established and comfortable with some of the things, but I should have done something like that. Rich reviews. My reaction to Terminator Dark Fate was at least Lyndall Hamilton can bank account must be happy. Yeah, and that's actually when they did Terminator 3, Arnold called James Cameron. He's like, hey, they want me to do Terminator 3. I'm not going to do it unless you're doing it or I have your blessing. And James Cameron apparently said to him, like, hey, man, just make sure you get a big check. As long as you get a big check, I'm totally happy. You can be in the movie. And that's what he did. And Arnold got a big check for it. But he also, he cares about, like, he self-funded some of the action sequences and he cares about his movie. Like, he's very passionate about his projects. So, like, there's a big chase in the middle of Terminator 3 that was funded by Arnold. They were going to cut it out of the film and do something real simple. He's like, no, this is going to be like the coolest sequence. And then he funded it, and it is one of the cooler sequences in the movie. Road to Dawn, would you be open to an Office 1 hour reunion special with the original cast? No, I don't think so. I just don't like any sort of like return to sitcoms and things. I can't think of one that I thought was actually good or that, because like there's not a way to do that doesn't just, just feel like this weird fabricated thing. You don't capture the magic of the show. The magic of the show was these characters in an office being employees together, and so it touched on the way people interact in an office, their actual dynamics they have with one another. And so then if you make it a 1 hour special, now suddenly it's about getting them back together is the first 20 minutes of it, and then them being used to each other once again, and then sending them off in a satisfying way. And so it's not the same thing. You can't do the same thing anymore because they're not working in an office together anymore. We resolved their storylines. We sent people off to other places. So I just don't have any interest in kind of The Office coming back yet. I certainly don't want the original cast. I think I didn't like the last season really at all, but the last episode felt right. That last episode resolved as much as you could the storylines that they had, and felt like a send-off, sentimental, so all those fun things. So I just don't think you could do anything that I would think was good. There's just because of the nature of the show. Oh, lots of questions. I'll catch up, guys. Jackson, what's the best movie ever revolving around a MacGuffin? I don't know if I spelt that right. So, I mean, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark is the answer to it. Or if you're a Last Crusade person, it's Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. But if you don't know what a MacGuffin is a term used for an item in a movie that everyone is trying to track down. It's the plot device driving things forward. So the Indiana Jones movies there's the Raiders of the Lost Ark is the Ark of the Covenant, Temple of Doom, Shakara Stones, Last Crusade, Holy Grail, Crystal Souls is the Crystal Souls. Everyone's trying to get that item. Or Ant-Man and the Wasp is a MacGuffin movie. Everyone's trying to get this lab briefcase thing, and that's what drives the story forward. I mean, you could go back to some 40s movies or something and that are classics or anything, but of the modern era films of the last 40 years, I would say movie that's about getting an item, the Indiana Jones movies are the best at that. Those are the two best adventure films, and so those are the ones that just, there's not a question. I read, like, as soon as I saw Best MacGuffin, Indiana Jones. No question. If you're talking about maybe you could, what about the Maltese Falcon? Maybe we could do something like that, but that's not my expertise. So of the last 40 years, that's the one. Jackson, if you are told by an interviewer that they are going to set up an interview call with you and their bosses, what's a reasonable time to reach back out to them if they haven't given you details on when the call will be without being seen as obnoxious? I mean, it depends on the urgency. I mean, there's a lot of factors into that, but I mean, I'd have to know more details, but if you wait a couple days, that's not obnoxious. If you get back to them like, hey, we didn't set a date on that. When's the date? I tend to, if we get into productivity, if someone's like, hey man, we should do something together, whenever I have a conversation like that, hey, we should collab, if I actually intend to do that collaboration, if I really think like this is something I need to make happen and I can make happen now, like if it's in the near future, in that conversation I'll try and figure out the next step to resolve it. So hey, like, can I have your email address so we can discuss back and forth a day at a time? I'm normally free, and I'll try and make it as clear as possible. That's not obnoxious. That's normal. And if you send that their way and they don't get back to you, wait 2 days. Hey, man, I didn't hear back. What's a good day for you? Wait a couple more days. And then by the third time you do this, you say, hey, I'd love to hear back to you. I'd love to schedule that interview. The ball's in your court. Get back to me when you can. You use language like that. The ball's in your court. So you kind of pass responsibility over the time. It's a gracious way to say, hey, I love being in contact with, I'd love to do this, but I'm not going to annoy you anymore. Ball's in your court. Osen, have you ever seen Doctor Who? Not really. I've tried. I watched, of the current shows kind of going, I watched series 1 with Christopher Eccleston, Malkith. I watched that series, or most of it. I don't think I made it to the end, but I watched, 7 or 8 episodes, so almost all of it, over half. And I just didn't like it. I didn't care for it. It didn't work for me. It wasn't my thing, really. And it was one of those ones that I couldn't understand why people... It's a type of show that I don't want it to steal anyone else's joy, but I just didn't get it. Like, I didn't understand why other people would think this would be something I would like. And then I watched, I think, Series 3 of Torchwood, the spin-off with John Bowerman. I'd heard like that, oh, this is really great sci-fi. So I checked that one out. And I liked that a good bit more than the Doctor Who season that I watched. but I still didn't love it. It wasn't. I didn't keep watching it. I just watched through this one plotline series. So that's kind of my quick take on it. I've just never gotten into it. I've heard people say try Matt Smith, try David Tennant, and maybe if I skipped forward to whenever David Tennant joined in or some of these other guys, it would click for me and I'd resonate better. But I'm not. I don't think I would. I think that just the something about the nature of it. It's just not the way I'm wired too much. Rich reviews. I watched the Netflix produced Designated Survivor Season 3. I felt that had more laser focused, streamlined. So it's dropped. I didn't know that. I would have watched it last night. Thanks for actually mentioning that because that's what I'll watch tonight. I'll binge through that. So much so that I'm actually going to text my wife to make sure that I remind her that we need to do that. So you're real world stuff right here. Designated Survivor Season 3 dropped. Exclamation points. While my phone's out, I'm going to take a selfie with you guys, actually. Howler Johnson, can you rank the top 10 best shows you've ever seen? I don't know about best. I can say my favorites. I don't like to pick best, and I couldn't rank them. I couldn't. Maybe someday I'll do a video doing something like that where I could. But some of my favorites of all time: Star Trek, The Next Generation, Batman the Animated Series, Seinfeld, 24. Breaking Bad's great. The Office, of course. Parks and Rec is great. I don't know. Those are some of the ones off the top of my head. It's tough to come up with TV shows are a lot more difficult because they keep going, and so there's seasons 1 and maybe 2 of Lost are some of the best television ever. I mean, just fantastic, and then goes downhill. Heroes season 1 is fantastic. Seasons 2, 3, 4, and 5 are terrible. So TV shows are just tricky because of the nature of them, but those are some of the ones that quickly come to mind that I would think of. Like seasons 1 through 5 of Dexter are great, and then it doesn't end well at all. Rich reviews. So apparently there's an increase of tourism to Chernobyl as a road with the Chernobyl miniseries. It's kind of funny. It's dangerous. It sounds scary. Jackson, I would have cast Ty Sheridan, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Nicholas Braun, Liam Hemsworth, and Alex as the new Batman. I don't know. For me, I just don't want anybody to. Well, kind of going through your list, I don't know who Nicholas Braun is, so right off the bat, I'm interested in that. Let me look at this, check on who some of these guys are. Okay, let me go through your list. Ty Sheridan, I would absolutely not. I don't see it at all. I do not see him, and I don't think he has a great presence. He's only 5'7", looking up his account right here real quick. He just doesn't have the vibe of any of it. So I would totally shoot that one down. And he's Cyclops already. I don't want Nicholas Hoult Beast being him. I don't want Edward Cullen being him. So I'm not crazy about that. Aaron Taylor Johnson, same problem. I don't want Quicksilver. I don't want Kick-Ass as Batman. He's not as definitive with some of these roles as these other guys are because he only, Quicksilver was like B-level in a movie, and then Kick-Ass isn't as iconic, so maybe, but I'm not crazy about it. Nicholas Braun, let me look this guy up real quick. We got Nicholas Braun. I know nothing about his acting. I don't know who he is. He looks a little bit cartoonish, so I'm not crazy about that. He is 6'5". I like a tall Batman. I like Batman to be taller than me. So I could be open to that. Your last two on here, Liam Hemsworth and Alex Patera, they're too good looking. They're too pretty boy for me. And Liam Hemsworth, I think, is too smiley. I haven't seen him broody. I haven't bought that about him. I mean, I've seen the Hunger Games movies, but I didn't didn't buy him his broody, angry version. That's not his strong suit. Like, he's great in Isn't It Romantic as the handsome dumb guy that's arrogant. He's fantastic in it, doing it. But I think he's too pretty. He's got the build. I'd have to see him angry, and he doesn't have a franchise. He's people know who he is somewhat because he's his brother, but he isn't. So I could be won over if I saw the thing that saw him brooding, and certainly we could believe him as the big physical type. And Alex Pettyfer, too pretty. He is just looks too much like he's a Abercrombie and Fitch model, too good looking to be Bruce Wayne. In a like, there's Pretty Boy, and when I say that, there's like Pretty Boy, like, you know, they are of course going to cast someone handsome. You know, of course Ben Affleck is handsome. And traditionally a good-looking movie star-looking guy, but he looks like a normal-looking person. And then there's people that look just like a supermodel. They look too perfect, and they move into this whole other category. And that's what he looks like, that to me, like, too pretty-looking for to be Batman. Rich Reeves, one problem I have with Dark Phoenix is it felt like no great love between Ty Sheridan and Sophie Turner. I felt something from Famke Janssen, and I mean. To be fair, there was probably more time with Famke, James Marsden, and there could be a little bit more of the focus. And so then you got them, I guess, 2 movies with them, maybe 3. I don't know the time level how it worked out, but only 2 movies and their side characters in the first one. So haven't gotten as much time with them. But yeah, I mean, they're not developed. They don't put any time into it. We're told, like, I only care about her, Jean. I love you. I'll always come back to you, Scott. Like, they're doing that, but we don't get any time to see that. You're telling us they love each other, but you're not showing us, and it's a movie, so you got to show it. Shadow Reviews. Hey, man. Nice to see you. I'm going to a 3-week summer camp tomorrow. I'll be studying artificial intelligence at camp. I'm so excited. That sounds cool. I never did anything cool like that. I never got to go off to like a learning type camp of that nature when I was growing up. So I was interested in some of those things. That's pretty cool to like dig in deep into something. So hope you have fun, learn some things, and I don't know if you create things at something like that, but hopefully you get to create something cool. Rich Reviews, are you planning on watching this prequel series of The Dark Crystal, The Age of Resistance? I've never seen the original. For whatever reason, it just never came out that I watched The Dark Crystal. So I have no intention of watching the prequel. I haven't watched the trailer. It's just one of those ones that wasn't my childhood, so I can't talk about it, or I don't have thoughts on it. Rich Reeves, thoughts on Swamp Thing being canceled? Weird. I haven't watched it yet. I just don't have time, and I didn't want. I'm trying not to add TV shows that I'm not already watching, or that I don't think my wife would watch, or that I can't create content out of. And I could create content out of this DC stuff, but I just don't want more TV shows to review. As soon as I talk about a TV show, people go, talk about this too, and I just can't talk about all of it. So I'm talking about less and less TV as of recently. Thoughts on it being canceled? Weird, very weird, because all the rumors are that the numbers are good, the reception is good, they just have creative differences. So it's very weird. And there was rumors about it being canceled months ago. Odd stuff, very weird story. So I don't know, whatever's going on, it's bizarre. Matt G, the Dark Crystal trailer was incredible. Like I said, I haven't watched it. I haven't watched the original, so I just don't have, for no reason. There's literally no reason. It's just not something that I've watched. Or like, I watched Fraggle Rock. I watched a bunch of other Henson stuff from back in the day. Just missed that one. Road to Dawn, do you think we'll get an Ant-Man 3? I'm going to say the odds of an Ant-Man 3 are under 50%. A couple reasons for that. I think the murmurs were a little bit that just Disney, Kevin Feige weren't looking to do a third one simply because it's the weakest performing franchise they have. And it tends to get some of the, people are less excited about it. It just doesn't do what the other franchises do. It doesn't have, it's not a big character, literally. It's not a big character that creates excitement. It doesn't generate money. It's another, middle-aged white guy as a superhero. And they're like, okay, why would we keep pouring money into this one when we can diversify, we can get new characters, and we've got, everything else made more money than this. Let's do anything else. And then this week's rumor was that maybe Peyton Reed will do Fantastic Four. That was a big rumor this week. And that would seem like, how do you say, hey, Peyton Reed, we like you. We're not mad at you. These movies aren't performing great, but we think you made a fun movie. A lot of people did like what you did. Let's use your magic on a bigger franchise, Fantastic Four. Let's see if you can be the person to get it right with our... That sounds good to me. I don't have a problem with that. I'd be game for that. And Some people have been like, Peyton Reed's tone's totally wrong for the Fantastic Four. Like, I'm not like a Fantastic Four expert, but it doesn't seem wrong to me. Like, I don't know what they're thinking it should be, but I could see that one fitting because it's supposed to be a little bit more family fun. Ant-Man movies are very family focused. Maybe, are they the most family focused movies that we have inside of the MCU? Because you got Scott and his daughter and ex-wife is one family, and then you've got the Pym family. Like, it's very family centric, and so Fantastic Four is all about that. So I could see that being a good fit. Oh, so many questions. I'm gonna. Oh man, I gotta speed up. Richard Reeves breaking. Kevin Hart is in talks to do a Scrooge remake. I saw that yesterday. Could be interesting. I don't know. Sounds good. I mean, it's been 30 years, so that's enough time. And it's it's a remake. It's a reimagining of a Christmas Carol. So I could be game for it. Shadow Reviews. This is my 23rd day of summer vacation. In that time, I've watched 24 movies. On Thursday, I watched 3 movies. Woo! Yeah, keeping busy, making progress, watching 3 movies. Fun times. Jackson, who do you think has the best character arc in The Office? I always get flack for saying Ryan. I would give you flack for saying Ryan. I don't think Ryan has a good character arc because it doesn't feel like a character arc. It feels like a character arc for half of it, and then it feels like they just wanted to use him for comic relief. So the idea, they show him as kind of a jerk, egotistical, but for some reason Michael's obsessed with him in the first 3 seasons, and then he leverages a bunch of stuff, becomes like this manager guy, and becomes just the worst version of himself with his promotion going into season 4. So I think all that works all the way through the end of that season. I think all that works, and then afterwards he's just they just make him goofy as can be. So I don't dig that. I don't like that. I've ranked the Office characters. I'll stand by what I said there. Michael Scott, I think, has the best arc. They show him as the doofus, but they show there's things that he's good at, and they let him have these victories. As much as they make him the butt into the joke, make him out to be the fool so often, just enough, they let him win. And so then it's really satisfying when he has a moment that they've shown so much that he loves the Office, he loves his family there, and he meets someone that he likes. And the things he always wanted was a family. He meets the right person and finds out that she has to move away and doesn't have to think about it, that as much as he loves the Office, he would kind of leave with her. All of that was earned. All of it was in character, and all of it made you happy. And then you kind of get the little coda, the little epilogue for him in the finale that just perfectly makes you happy. And I think that's the best arc that they gave, because it never felt like they just went off script. It didn't feel like they just wrote him nonsensically. He was consistent. They built an actual arc there. Oh, Tina Ann, thanks for joining in. I'm not. Is this your first time? Oh, new patron. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining in. Hi, Sean. I'm a new patron, so I hope this is a good question. I love Killer Flicks and Scream Stream. Do you enjoy participating? And is your participation any different from your own live streams and videos? Is your preparation for any? Do you enjoy participating? And is your preparation any different from your own live streams and videos? Yeah. So so if you don't know what she's talking about, Killer Flicks is a Facebook group on horror movies. And I don't even know the origin of it, but one of the top guys in there is Drum Dum, and another big top dog in there is a guy named Cody Leach. Cody Leach, probably one of my certainly top 3, possibly best YouTube friend. One of these people, along with a couple other guys that I talk with on Facebook almost every single day. We've been talking Dark Phoenix the last 2 days. We talk about brand deals and all sorts of YouTube-y stuff, all sorts of movie stuff. And Cody Leach is one of the big dogs in there. And so him and Drum Dum and a couple other guys that are very prominent on Killer Flicks have this thing called the Scream Stream that they do every weekend, I believe. And I've been on there a couple of times in the last few months. And they kind of always given me an open invitation. The way it worked out is I don't remember specifically how this played out, but I was agreed to be on there after Endgame came out. Like 2 weeks later, I was like, asked Cody if I could be on the stream randomly. He's like, yeah, I mean, didn't I tell you could be on after Endgame? It's like, did we? Like, I totally forgot, and apparently asked to be on it a couple times in a row. And so I was on there to talk about Pet Sematary because I'd never seen the original one, so I went in fresh into the new, or I don't have a history with it. I watched it right before the new one came out, and so I had a different perspective on it. And then went and talked Endgame with them, and So is my preparation different for doing those than it is for doing my usual? Yeah, because I don't have to be the one driving it. They're asking me questions. It's more of a conversation, and so there's not and they're not telling me like we're going to talk about these 20 things. Have your points worked up. Or when we talked about Endgame, I didn't prep for the stream. I prepped all the content I already did. So I already been talking about it for 5 days by the time we did the stream. So I just talked. Pet Cemetery, I rewatched the older ones. I took some notes. I had some things written down so I could try and be less the fool inside of it. They also talked about other Stephen King remakes, and I had to do. I'm not an expert on Stephen King works, so I had to do some research to make sure I knew which ones were which, and so I did a lot of things to try to not look foolish inside of it. It's a different type of deal. It's nice to not be the one in charge. It doesn't matter. Like when I'm on my own streams, I'm watching like I have to drive the conversation. I have to watch to make sure the chat board's not going cuckoo or anything like that. And so it's nice to just get to be there and talk when I have something to say and something to add in. It's also really difficult because it's a different type of thing to like try and fit onto the vibe of a show because you don't want to talk over people. You don't want to be rude. You don't want to dominate people. And so then I can be a little bit passive. And the one that's a little bit frustrating, it's pretty frustrating for me when I do them in kind of a good way, kind of a bad way, is that because I have a pretty big following, when I'm on the stream, I promote it on my channel and tell people I'm there. And so they come over looking for me, and there's 5 people there, and so I only talk 20% of the time if I'm doing it properly, which 5 people, everyone should talk a fifth of the time. And some of my people can be a little bit anxious to hear me talk. So like, I only like it when Sean talks, and that puts me in a tough spot. I don't like that so much because it's disrespectful to everyone else. It's very disrespectful, obviously rude to the people that it's their actual channel. And I want to join in. I want people to participate. And I want to promote other people and the conversation. So it makes me uncomfortable when people do it. So anyway, there's some long thoughts on all that fun stuff. Holler selfie, yeah. I took it, didn't post it. Wow, I'm very far behind on these. Let me start talking quick. Jackson, what's your most embarrassing guilty pleasure movie TV series? I don't feel guilty really about anything. So that's why I use Taco Bell, because I don't feel guilty. So therefore, I'm not going to call it a guilty pleasure if I'm not feel guilty about getting pleasure from watching it. I enjoy those Matthew McConaughey rom-coms. I enjoy a lot of rom-coms. It's just easy to watch, consume enjoyable content. So there's probably some of the, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, things like that. I have a ton of fun with Sweet Home Alabama, Reese Witherspoon ones. The stuff, the early Zero rom-coms that are very formulaic, those are probably the ones that I'd throw out there as stuff that I probably shouldn't watch or should be embarrassed by, but I'm not embarrassed. Rich Reviews, would you rather see a reboot of Spawn or Darkman? I think Spawn's coming. Darkman? I don't know. I don't think so. I think Spawn, we got a bad adaptation 20 years ago, and so you can do it right and get a better budget. CGI will help a lot. I think with Darkman, that's Sam Raimi. He did the original. I don't remember if he came up with the idea, but I think a weird Sam Raimi Darkman with Liam Neeson from almost 30 years ago. I think that's the one we need. I don't see the benefit of an updated one. Shadow Reviews, vampires turned into bats. Robert Pattinson played a vampire in Twilight movies. It's going to be Batman. He went from a vampire to a bat. Yes, he did. Yes, he did indeed. Jackson, I think what puts The Office over Parks and Rec for me is that someone like most of The Office characters, and Parks and Rec characters are too much characters to be relatable. Yes, it's very true. That's and that's why I don't like the later seasons of The Office. They stop being relatable. You have our relatable characters, I think, have gone through the more interesting arcs of getting Jim and Pam together. A bunch of the stuff they go through they go through it in the first 4 seasons, and then in the last 4, it's much more about Dwight's wacky antics, and he stops being like a guy that you know from The Office that's this weird, odd, know-it-all that's very confident. Like, he seems like a lot of people and then you get to the point in time where it's just so over the top, so ridiculous that I just don't think it has the same effect. Which review? That's the wrong name. The Shadow Reviews. Love Simon is on sale on Vudu right now, so it would be a good time to rent or buy it. I'll look to see. I don't have time to watch it right now is the thing. It's just not on my radar at all as a movie to watch. I literally made a list of 45 movies I need to watch by like the 25th or something like that. And so I'm just so booked on things as like, hey, watch this random movie from 2018 that some people liked. It's just like I'm not going to do content out of it. And it's just not something that I'm immediately like, I want to go check that out. It's just one that a lot of people are, I've had a lot of people recommending it to me for the last year, but it's not something I would by the nature of it be drawn towards it, since, obviously I do big franchise type stuff. Jackson, aside from the fact that he's associated with Star Wars, do you think Adam Driver could make a good Bruce Wayne Batman? I don't think so. I think that he's I find Adam Driver to be kind of goofy looking. He's got kind of exaggerated features on his face, and so I don't think he just even as Kylo Ren. It's when I was like this guy's kind of odd looking. Can't put my finger on exactly what it is, but he just has certain features that are just exaggerated, I guess. I don't know. And so I don't see it. I think he's really great as an actor, and I think his other stuff really shows that. But I mean, he's got the build, he's got the size. He's a real tall guy, obviously, and we've seen him shirtless, and we know he can hit the gym. So I like all those aspects. He just doesn't have the right look. And to the standard that I always have there, I don't want to see Kylo Ren under the Batman mask. So, aside from the fact, but that's one of my big ones. It is a fact. And so that's my biggest thing of like, I just don't want to look at this pool of people. If we're looking at that pool of people, I would think very differently. But that's just kind of like as a starting point. I want someone my height, my weight bigger, and I want someone that I don't associate with a big iconic franchise. Like those are kind of my two things that I want. I'm not saying they'll do a bad job. It's not like I'm not going to dislike the movie. It's nothing like that. I didn't want Ben Affleck for these reasons as well, or for one of these reasons. One of them he passed the test, one of them he doesn't. But I think they did a good job in Batman v Superman, so it won't ruin it for me or anything. But just as a matter of preference. Mr. Downer, have you watched Glass again since buying it on Blu-ray? Do you think it's better or worse? Yeah, I watched it 2-3 weeks ago with my wife. She hadn't seen it yet. I felt about the same place. I probably would say I scored it a little bit high, but my feelings didn't change. I think I went with a B. Probably should have gone with a B-. I think B- is where I think I really fall on it, especially as I'm like looking at the year and other things that have come out. And I keep a running ranking in some of my notes. And when I think, all right, when I look at my B's and which one's the top B, bottom B, I always have Glass as the bottom B, in which case it should be a B- most likely. But my feelings on it essentially are the same. Jackson, what are some of your favorite sports movies? Field of Dreams, Hoosiers. I haven't watched either one of these in too long. That's a problem. I need to watch it. Rocky, of course. Rocky 4, of course. Rocky Balboa, of course. Creed 1 and 2, of course. Warrior is a must-watch. You got to check out Warrior. It's one of the most underappreciated films of the last 10 years. I talk about it as much as I can. Check out Warrior. So we got a basketball movie. We got a baseball movie in there. We got boxing. We got wrestling. Yeah, those are the ones I'll go with for the moment that are coming to mind. I'm sure I've got something I'm forgetting that I love. Rich review. So I guess you've never did a summer swim league. There's one summer swim team in my area that is 300 people. No, definitely never did a summer swim league. Rich reviews. Thoughts on Ford versus Ferrari? Yeah, I just saw the trailer in front of. What did I see this week? In front of Dark Phoenix. I hadn't watched it online, so I checked it out. And I dug it. I thought it. I don't know, just an interesting little thing. These big personalities played by great actors in kind of one of these stories. I think it's true. I think it was true. About inventions. Those are always kind of fun little deals, and with race car driving, you can have a little action inside of it. So, yeah, I dug the trailer. I actually meant to come home and show it to my wife and then forgot. Jackson, as a Christian like myself, what do you think is the most blasphemous, offensive movie you have seen in terms of betrayal of the Bible or Christianity? Most blasphemous or offensive movie you've seen in terms of betrayal of the Bible or Christianity? Last Temptation of Christ just inherently falls into that category. I remember there being some things in Dogma that I thought was just... I mean, it was emotionally poking at the bear. Like, it was meant as a joke, but inherently that's also going to be pretty offensive. The one that probably just bugged me the most when it came out, not necessarily blasphemous, but a movie came out called Saved about Christian school, and a girl gets pregnant, and then she's shamed by the Christian school and kind of finds friends out of it. And it was a movie that just really bothered me because it felt like the sort of thing that Hollywood feels comfortable poking at Christianity because it's popular, but they wouldn't do this to any other religions. You wouldn't have people that don't form into a religious group. They wouldn't do this for any smaller religions. You wouldn't make a movie poking fun of people in the way that this one did. And having grown up out of youth group, and at the time the movie came out, being less than 5 years out of youth group, it was frustrating because I knew a lot of people that were becoming de-evangelicals, no longer evangelicals, kind of leaving church circles. And they watched the movie and went, "This is exactly what it's like." And I was in the same youth group as them. Was like, "No, it's not. Like the lead guy and is this like very goofy, trying to be a rock star youth pastor and doing all this really cheesy stuff that I actually did probably as a youth pastor, but and they were saying like, this is exactly what it's like. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like the guy that your youth pastor is nothing like that. Like he's the very nerdy, overweight, bald man. He is nothing at all that's read too many philosophy books. That's your youth pastor. He's nothing like the person that you're describing. Is that one really bugged me? It's not really blasphemous, but more, I don't like it when people outside of a group make something to make fun of something and present it as a caricature and use their megaphone to make another group look bad. It's kind of bigotry inherently in the nature of it. If you want to make fun of your own group, you can do that, but it's pretty gross to do it otherwise. Ozone Downer, who would you cast Fantastic Four? I don't know. I mean, people keep asking me this question, and I don't have a good answer. I mean, there have been rumors of John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, and then some other people, and I could go for that. I don't know. Johnny Storm's really easy to cast. I think he's probably the one that's just kind of... There's always going to be some 25-year-old hot, obnoxious guy that can play a jock. So I think he's pretty easy to cast. So, you could give me a list of 30 guys, and I'd say any one of them would fit that role. Because it's not super niche. But being able to play someone really smart, but it's also likable and be a hero, that's a little bit trickier. So John Krasinski, I think, could do that. And I've said that John Krasinski, I think, is limited because I keep going back to this phrasing, but like goofy looking. And he can be kind of goofy looking. Cartoonish. He's handsome, great shape. But he's kind of cartoonish. And that would fit Mr. Fantastic. So, and the Thing, I don't have someone. Chickless was great, so if you could find whoever's another guy like that. Road to Dawn, what do you think about a movie about Captain America returning the Infinity Stones? I wouldn't want a movie out of that. There's just not enough of a story there. Because it's a movie of a series of episodes. So you could do that as a really cool internet series. You could do that as a series of shorts. That would be cool. Like if they said, hey, like we've got the ultimate special feature for the Endgame Blu-ray, and they announce it as we're doing 6 shorts that are 7 minutes long of Captain America returning the stones. That would be cool. As a movie, though, it turns into this episodic thing of it kicks off with that scene that we saw, and then he jumps in there, and in every 10 minutes we're cutting to a new space. It just doesn't. It's too. So I don't think it would work as a movie. As little Marvel shorts, that would be awesome. Of course, the Return of the Soul Stone, him having a chat with Red Skull, and you could do interesting stuff with that. And because each one could be, when you have him returning the Red Skull, you think of like, what would that be like versus going to Asgard. Asgard is like turns into like this probably slapstick humor type thing of him running around like, what is space planet place? What is this? Versus him going and talking with his arch nemesis who spent all these years in Reflection as flying Soulstone guy. I could see that as interesting. Matt, I thought Dark Phoenix was so-so. The same night I saw Rift Tracks event. While Dark Phoenix was better than the movie, Rift Tracks used not really a compliment for X-Men. Other movies, villains actually had a deeper backstory. That's an interesting little double feature right there. Yeah, it's a weird movie. It's a weird the mistakes that Dark Phoenix made. Like, how would you not know? Like, why would you write the villain so shallow? Why would you misuse some of these characters? Why do some of these characters seem out of place? But at the same time, things about it are really good. It's not like a. There are things I really like. I think there's some good action in the third act and things. There's like good ideas, but I don't know. It just the end result just feels real weird, so-so-y. Yeah. Shadow Reviews. I was talking about the first Iron Man movie yesterday and almost started crying when talking about how Endgame affected it for me. That happens to me a lot. Even when we're something in this video I was talking about with Michael Scott. I was starting to feel the emotions rise up in me talking about Michael Scott. And I was worried I was going to start crying on camera talking about The Office. Like, I don't want that to happen. But yeah, sometimes that happens where you're just talking and you just feel those emotions welling up inside of you. You're like, wow, that's really powerful what they did. That's a neat thing. That's why I love movies. That they can move you. Like I've seen the first Iron Man a ton of times. I've seen Endgame 3 times, and sometimes talking about that arc, and it's like, wow, that's just powerful. Seeing The Office on repeat for 10 years, and then talking about what they did with Michael's characters, wells up the emotions. Jackson, what kind of vehicle do you drive? I have a 2008 Toyota Yaris. I do not like it. I did not select it. The backstory on why I have it is that it's my wife's car from January 2008. She had a minivan, got in a wreck, so she got to pick what car she wanted next. That's the one she picked. I like to drive a stick shift. It's more fun. It just makes driving a little bit more interesting, and it's like you're playing a video game, moving the stick around and everything. I've always liked driving a stick, and I drove a stick for 15 years, from about the year 2000, 2001, 2002-ish. Somewhere in there, somewhere around that time, I got a stick shift, and then I had one until, I guess, 2014. Then second child was born, and we needed a minivan. We got to the point in time we need a bigger car. The Yaris isn't big enough. My little stick shift thing isn't big enough. So then she went out, got a minivan, and I got her car. And it's just, I don't fit in it right. I felt it fit better into my old stick shift. And it was a hatchback, it was a little Chevy Aveo, not a big car, but I fit in it right. And so now I have the Yaris, and I just don't fit in it right. And so I don't like that. There's some stuff with the dashboard and the way that the consoles are in the middle as opposed to in front of you. So it's just some stuff it's not the car I would have picked, and it's not a stick shift. Jackson, what do you think is the number one thing other YouTubers who aren't growing their channels are doing wrong? The generic answer is that they're not looking to be a master of YouTube. And it's a broad category, but like since I started, I bought, in my first 30 days, bought a program called 30 Days to a Better YouTube Channel. I followed a podcast, video creators podcast, every single week since I started the channel pretty much. I've taken all sorts of stuff, watched so many videos on how to do it right, and just always wanted to know how YouTube worked to be successful on it. So I've built my brand, I built my videos, created my template structures, everything around how YouTube actually works. And I think most people, they just get on there and they want to post videos, they want to copy people over here, they want to copy people over here, and they learn from them. And that's part of the process of getting good, but some of it's just really digging in deep into things. And they copy some things that they see other people, smash that like button. Smash that like button isn't a very good call to action in a video because it doesn't really move the needle. It doesn't do anything useful. You're just telling someone to like your stuff, which if you can do that with like a bunch of personality, it can be cool. But it doesn't, like mine. I wanted to build mine around starting conversations. So I always say comment below, share your ranking. Because I want to start a conversation. I want to exchange ideas. That's part of my community. It's even, talks about is in the title because that's what I want us to be doing, talking about things. Smash the like button doesn't accomplish anything. And a comment that you respond back to says back and forth and gets people to come back. So some of that came from just understanding how YouTube actually works and how people engage with it. So I think that's the big one that comes to mind of just choosing to master YouTube. Makes a big difference, and all the elements to it. There's a lot that can go into YouTube. It's an interesting platform that way, and I tried to master it. Back backstory, where questions. Jackson, what would a biopic of Sean Chandler starring Chris Pratt be titled? Okay, so Chris Pratt's the right person. That's probably a good one. You have to do it right now since, he's currently older than me. So if you wait any amount of time, then he's going to probably definitely be too old. What would it be titled? I don't know. I have to think about it. Because the life story of Sean Chandler, it just covers such a weird, strange amount of time, and it's about my wacky personality, my failures, my rising. So, it's not like super defined by one thing as of yet. Because even the reason it's interesting is because of my own failures and my own backstory. And it just seems like there's all these things that I've done that most people, they know me from YouTube, and they're like, "What? You did all this before, and what? You struggle with this? What? You did?" So I don't know what you would want to call it, because it also comes down to the tone. So sorry, I don't have a good title for you. Shadow Reviews. The Mission Impossible movies are confusing to me, especially Ghost Protocol. I've never seen Fallout, by the way, because I love Ghost Protocol quite a bit. I don't really think it is great. I don't know. You have to elaborate on what's confusing about it for you. I can't really elaborate. So maybe you do in the later comments, but I think it's great. It does what it's supposed to do. It's entertaining from beginning to end. And Fallout kind of feels like the movie that ties some things together. They fill in some backstory and a lot of stuff. So it does help a little bit to understand the previous few films, or since the third film and onward. But you have to explain what was confusing for me to elaborate more. Jackson, I like the new camera. You've come a long way from your ripe tomato days. It's a true story. Yeah, this new camera, having fun with it. I'm enjoying it. It pretty right out of the gate. I was very happy with the results, and I looked at it. Whoa, oh wow! It's crisp and looked good. I didn't like necessarily the lighting, the way it worked, and so then each video I've put out this week, I've written down the settings I used and tweaked them a little bit, and changed my lights. I have 3 lights right here hanging from the ceiling. Well, you've probably seen some of this, but they're right there. So I've got my 3 lights hanging from the ceiling, and then I've got my little ring light that you would have seen in that. But each of these lights have 2 light switches, so you can have double your light power or whatever, so you can make them half as bright or twice as bright or something like that. And so I switched the camera settings, turning on the number of lights, and writing notes down to try and figure out what's the one that I think has the look that I like the best. But yeah, it's just right out the gate, pretty nice. And just even the reason that when you're using a webcam that's not really designed to be used on this capacity for these videos to be seen by so many people, they're super sensitive to any changes inside of the room, and the lighting or the shirt that I wore would change things, and everything could mess it up. And so suddenly I have these old videos where I just look ridiculous because I'm just, for whatever reason, the auto feature picked up the dark color on this and tried to lighten the color of this. And so by writing that, it lightened my crazy stuff like that happen all the time. So it just gets weird. So anyway, yeah, thank you. All right, we don't have too many more. We're over an hour now, so I'll finish out these questions. If you have any last things you want to throw in here real quick, or if you have any follow-up on things I talked about, I'll finish up on these questions you have here, and then any new ones that come out real quick, and we'll be off. Thank you so much for joining. I really do appreciate it. I might try and do an extra one since I missed a week ago. Rich Reviews, thoughts on Renee Zellweger, Judy Garland biopic? Sounds good to me. I mean, I think. I don't... there's a story there. I would say she died young or relatively young, so I guess there's a story there. So I don't know what it is, so I think I would pick Renee Zellweger. She seems like a totally fine pick if you're telling a story about her in her late 40s-ish. But I think I'd be for it. Shadow Reviews. I'm an atheist, but I don't think Hollywood should essentially make fun of religion. And that's, I think the thing is that, South Park. I haven't actually watched a ton of South Park. But South Park makes fun of Christianity, and it makes fun of Mormonism, it makes fun of Islam, it makes fun of everything. And I'm totally fine with that. If that's what your shtick is, no one's off limits, and whatever's funny, we're going to tackle it, and we don't pick sides. We are equal opportunity defender. I'm okay with that, because it's comedy in that nature is supposed to be transgressive, and you're supposed to show the silliness of life, and I can be okay with that. But what I don't like is when it's not really that. It's not someone making fun of the experience that is humanity and our differences, which is and it's only a celebration of humanity. If you're not cynical, if you're like, look, we're all ridiculous, that's fine with me. And like I said, I haven't really watched South Park. I've seen one episode of South Park, so this is a point of reference. One episode in 20 years. But not, and it's not because I'm offended. It's, as I mentioned, I'm using it as a positive example. But when you have people that have a platform and money to tell stories out there, and they choose it to use that platform to pick on specific people and target people they disagree with, that's pretty gross. That's dangerous. And that's what that's what a lot of people in the United States have a problem with. That's what Hollywood feels like, is that there's groups that that you can't make fun of, and then there's people that you should make fun of. And that seems like a really gross thing. Like, I understand that we want more representation, and there's people that have been underserved by society, and there are people that have been the targets, and that then we realize that we've been wronged a lot of people. And that's all good things for us to change, work on, but you don't turn it around and say, these people are now, you can't make fun of them, so we should make fun of these people over here. That's pretty gross. Like, that's the wrong solution. It's not to, like, just turn the tables. And it's what Hollywood feels like that. Like, that's, you think this movie Saved that I talked about, they would never make that about any of these other religions because it would be deemed wildly offensive. But it's a movie designed to make fun of a significant subculture inside the United States from someone that's not a part of it. And that shit, like, if you do that to anyone else, it's wildly offensive. And then for some reason, it's okay because it's, making fun of the popular group or the mainstream group, the dominant group. That seems very dangerous. Also, do Dark Phoenix aliens look like Groot in the shadows? They didn't look inspired by design. No, it was a weird direction. Like they looked at zombies at times. They looked like Swamp Thing. They looked like Groot. One of the many problems with it. I keep saying rich reviews. It's the Shadow reviews because they're right next to each other. My brain just ties them together. Shadow reviews. I also get bothered when movies are too religious. Snyder putting 4 crosses in the background of Superman's death. I get it. He's Jesus. Don't shove it in my face. Yeah, I don't like anything that preaches. I've said that like many times. Like, I'm a Christian. I don't really like almost any Christian movies. And I've actually had people like in my comments, "Oh, you're a Christian. Why don't you cover Christian movies?" Because I don't like them. There's actually the ones I have covered have done really well actually for my channel because there's not a lot of people cover them, so that's kind of niche content that I can dive into. And so I'd have reason to even maybe generate a niche for myself there, but I just don't like them because they're preachy, because they're heavy-handed. I don't like it. Or, as you mentioned, that more the allegory, the Zack Snyder, like, he's the last son of the great. Okay, yeah, and then Superman flies into space and puts his arm. Okay, I don't like that stuff. I don't agree with you. Road to Dawn. What do you think about a Black Adam movie? I after Shazam, I'm pretty on board to see what else we can do with that tone. That where there's, obviously, some of the big issues was the tonal inconsistency, but in general, I more in that universe with that sense of humor, that aesthetic to it, I could play ball with. So I'd say, yeah, I could be cool with that. And if The Rock has been cast as Black Adam for like 5 years now. They literally they announced that he was cast as Black Adam like in 2015 or something like that. 24, like it has been a long time since they announced him. So, The Rock is Black Adam. That's a movie I'd be interested in. Shadow reviews: is it possible to use necromancy in an ethical way? I don't think so. I don't know all of what that would entail, but you start dealing with going into realms that just seem like beyond what any human should be the one to make the choice about. So I would probably say there's not an ethical version of necromancy. Matt, first movie you saw in the theater? Mine was E.T. Longest gap between seeing a movie in theater, E.T. In 85, then 17. Most times you saw a movie in the theater. Mine was 4. Ever walk out of a movie? Okay, we had a lot of questions here. Okay. First movie you saw in the theater. I think it was Oliver and Company, but I don't really remember. I don't, like it's. I was young enough that it's kind of like in that little fog of like we went to go see it, and I don't know how much as I remember what I was told versus how much I remember as my own memory. Oliver and Company. The first two that I have kind of memories of, experiences of, would be Batman 1989 and Star Trek 5. Star Trek 5 have the story, actual distinct, like we went to, there's this whole story about it. I posted the video on my second channel, Real Creators. I talk about actually all of this question kind of in there, but those are the ones that kind of come to mind. Longest gap between seeing a film in a theater, E.T. and most times you saw a movie in the theater. Longest gap between seeing a film in a theater. Not sure what you mean by that one. I've seen a lot of movies at the Paramount Theater here in town years after they came out. So like I saw Star Trek 2 at the Paramount a couple years back. Came out 82. So that was a long gap. So maybe that one. Most times you saw a movie in the theater, maybe Phantom Menace. I don't know, something like that. Maybe Star Wars, the special edition. They're like 5 times, something like that. But I don't really know. I don't have any that I watch like 10, 20 times. Some people have 10, 20 times stories. I don't have that. I think my number's like around 5. And I've got a lot of movies that are right around there. So, but I'm not really sure. But it's probably Star Wars related. And ever walk out of a movie? American Psycho, went on a date to American Psycho with a girl from church. Not a good date night movie with a girl from church. So around the orgy, we're like, we should probably go. Got a little weird at that point in time. And then Crank. Went to go see that while I was in Bible college, and we thought we were expecting Transporter 4 type thing, and then the movie's much more like Grand Theft Auto, and so just at that moment in time that we're like, this isn't what we're looking for. So those are the two I've walked out of. Jackson, I did want to. I never rewatched both those since then, and they're both interesting in their own way. They're just not good date night movies, which I took, date night for those ones. Jackson, I did one of those celebrity lookalike sites, and with one of your thumbnails, and I'm sorry to say, but you remember lookalike is Paul Giamatti. Whoa, crazy! I mean, people tell me that all the time. Mr. Downer, have you seen 30 Rock? Yeah, so I've seen all but the last season of 30 Rock. No reason. It's one of those ones that like we watched through it, had a lot of fun with it, good experiences, and then just didn't finish it. Whatever happened with life, busyness, different directions, never saw where it ended. I don't know how the show ends, so I should probably need to finish it. All right, last question, dealie of the day. Jackson Rock, I've thought about writing a fish out of water type screenplay about Jesus coming back to Earth in 2019, seeing just how different things have become. Can that be done without being offensive? I mean, it depends on what obviously it depends on what your take on Jesus is. If you write it as a fish out of water comedy about this, wacky guy that like didn't know a bunch of things, inherently you treating Jesus as a punchline of a joke probably pretty quickly moves into blasphemy territory. But if you write it as a movie that's tended to be funny, tended to be amusing, but you're trying to be consistent with who Jesus is written as in the Bible, and so you're writing like, I'm not saying this happened, but like this exploration, what if Jesus came now and was commenting on things from a non-cynical, you're writing it from the Christian perspective, it's not offensive. If you're writing it from this like, look what Jesus would do, and you're cynical towards all of it, that probably would inherently be blasphemous, but there's a way to do it that I think wouldn't be. Maggie, sir, longest gap means for me, I saw E.T. in 85, then again in 2017. So for you, what would seeing Oliver and Company as an adult now, or Star Trek 5 decades later? Yeah, so if I watched Oliver and Company, that would probably be the one, or of movies that I kind of remember that would watch now. I don't know, because there's so many movies from my childhood that I watched and then watched a lot as a kid, and so then maybe like the last unit, I don't know, but trying to think of ones that I've actually rewatched recently. So I haven't seen, like, one that came to mind that could have been it would have been Edward Scissorhands. I saw that in the theater, but I don't think I've rewatched it since the early 90s, and I almost rewatched it a few months back. That probably would have been the winner, but I didn't rewatch it, so that's not the case. So I don't know. I don't think through like one of my rankings, like, so even recently, here's one that's a pretty long gap. I watched Godzilla 1998 for the first time since 1998, so that's a 21-year gap. Now it certainly wouldn't be. It's probably not the winner, but it's pretty close to what the winner would be. So anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in, having a nice chat with everybody. Thanks for the support. Thanks for being movie lovers. Thanks for caring enough about my thoughts about things. See you back. And no live stream next week. I'm not going to be at a Comic-Con at this time. So I might have one on Saturday. I might try and make up for it. Find a way I could do that. But this time is not available for me next week. I will be at Greater Austin Comic-Con. Talk to you later.